It's now noon and we're halfway into the day's cruise. We left Rosegrove in Burnley first thing this morning and we're heading west on the Leeds and Liverpool Canal towards Blackburn. If you want to see what happened in the first half of the day, I've put a link to that video in the description below. Just as we come under this railway bridge, a rather strange thing happens. We have a pigeon land on our solar panel. This is very unusual, and what's more unusual is that it stays on the roof for the next half a mile or so. It takes a little expedition down to the front of the boat. Once it's had a good look around there, it shuffles all the way back to the solar panel. Michael thinks she's now contemplating a little hop down to the gunnel. She seems to be making herself right at home, and we start to wonder if we found ourselves a new member of crew. Is she moving in? Should we give her a name? Just as we're starting to get attached to our new crewmate, she's off. We think she's some kind of homing pigeon. She obviously needed a bit of a rest and a lift for the last half a mile home. We've reached the outskirts of Blackburn now. The canal finally reached here from Leeds in 1810, 40 years after the construction of the navigation had begun. The pound we're in now is 22 miles long, and we haven't done a lock since we left Barrowford yesterday. Soon we'll be going down the Blackburn flight. This huge building is the Imperial Mill. It was a cotton spinning mill that was built in 1901. It has a really grand entrance. I can just imagine all of the cotton that must have arrived here from the Liverpool docks. There's been spinning mills in Blackburn since 1797, and by 1824 there were 24 mills in total. The growth of milling in the town led to the growth of the town. Imperial Mill produced cloth until 1980, and from what I understand, the building has sadly remained empty since then. This impressive building is the 5-storey Daisyfield Mill, originally known as Appleby's Flour Mill. It's the largest surviving corn mill in Blackburn, and it was built by Joseph Appleby in 1871. By 1889, 40 workers were employed here, and 3,000 sacks of flour were produced each week. It was taken over by Joseph Rank Limited in 1928, and it closed in 1968. Since then, it was used as warehousing for a while, and then in the 1990s it was converted into offices. This is Enham Wharf, and it was one of the first areas to develop when the canal reached Blackburn in 1810. Imported goods would have included coal and raw cotton from Liverpool. Apparently there was also a convict cellar here. Criminals were sent by barge from here to Liverpool and then put on the tall ships to Australia. Now the wharf is home to the Calypso Caribbean restaurant. After 22 miles in this pound, we finally arrived at the Blackburn locks. There are 6 locks in total on this flight, and they're going to take us down 54 feet. Our descent down the first lock is very straightforward. When we get to the second lock in the flight, we hit a problem. Pound below the lock is very low on water, and there's a boat stuck in the next lock because they can't get through the pound. George and I walk down to take a look, and Michael stays with our boat at the lock and opens the paddles to send some water down to refill the pound. I think we're going to be here a while. The pound is still a bit shallow, but if they stick to the centre channel, which is a little deeper, the boat should make it to the next lock where we're waiting. Unfortunately, as they travel through the pound, a mattress gets wrapped around their prop, and they're stopped in their tracks. More delays while they wrestle with the mattress down their reed hatch. Meanwhile, in the pound above where we're waiting, the water level started to get a little bit low, so Michael heads back up to the top lock to send some water down from the long 22-mile pound. More delays in the lock. We can't get the bottom gates to close. It's a bit of a weird one, as we can't find an obstruction under the water, but the offside gate just won't close all the way, no matter how many times we reopen and close it. Finally, they're through the lock. It's only been an hour or so since we arrived at this one. At this lock there's a CRT sanitary station, so we have a very quick pause to empty our liquid tank. So that was Blackburn. Lots of lovely industrial buildings. I just love how much history is evident along this canal.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Evening? Evening.
It's 4:30. It's nearly 5 o'clock. We've been going since, I don't know what time we started actually.
7 a.m.
Wasn't that early? Wasn't that early?
7:30 a.m.
Was it early? Oh, it got to about 11. I'm like, I'm okay with stopping now if you want to stop. But it's up to you. I gave Michael choice today and he chose to carry on.
Carry on, carry on. Yeah, it's never a good idea to leave things up to me because I'll just go further than you want me to.
So many random things happened today. I'm probably going to forget some of them.
Oh my god, yeah, today was weird.
But we had the swans. And we were
that was actually after, was that after or before we came across the randomly floating in the middle of the canal?
Oh, I think that was after. And then there was the pigeon incident, which was just so random.
Yeah, that was just plain weird.
Hi.
We're coming around a bend, and there's this. I wish I'd gotten a shot of it because it's just this thing comes fluttering down out of the sky, and it's across the middle of the boat. And I'm just like, what the heck is that? And I look up, and sure enough, there's this pigeon.
Very pretty pigeon.
Yeah, and then it sort of went off again. So I just thought it was like coming across us, got confused, and went away. Like sometimes birds do that, But then a few seconds later, it returned, hovered, and then plopped onto our solar panel.
And it spent quite a long time just pottering about on our roof.
Yeah, pottering about on the roof, walking up to the front, going to the back, looking around.
Yeah, it went all the way to the front.
It went to the side a couple of times and just sort of stood there and went, do I want to try and risk jumping onto the gunnel or not?
And then it had a little look under the solar panel to see what it was like under there. And then,
but of course, it did poop on my solar panel, which was my first thought. Was it landed, and I was like, "Oh, good! I'm going to have to clean poop off my solar panel."
And sure enough,
and there it is.
And then it eventually flew off. And then a bit further after that, there was a shout from the offside. This little boy with two adults. He shouted hello. And then you spotted that they looked like they were actually keeping pigeons there. So
yeah, well, we'd seen a couple of other white pigeons. This pigeon that was on our boat had two things on its ankles.
So we kind of knew it was domestic or like a George, come back here.
Yeah, like a homing pigeon of some sort. And then we saw some more of these bright white pigeons flying up in the sky above us, and that's when we heard the yell.
Yeah. And
I looked back, and we're waving at this kid and his family, and then I looked back again, and it was like, oh, I realized that they've got like an actual sort of little pigeon.
I don't know if they're racing pigeons or homing pigeons or what the difference is, but it was definitely a domestic pigeon.
Yeah.
So that was random.
Falconry with pigeons.
And then after that, there was like the little oil slick in the canal, which was really not very nice.
Yeah, just above the locks in Blackburn, we came across a big slick of, oil or diesel or something in the canal, which probably because the swans that we noticed were first reported not far away from where
Okay.
the locks were. That's probably how the swans got felled, was going through that slick. Because it was a big, I don't know, 300-foot long, dense slick that went all the way across the canal.
Yeah.
You couldn't smell it, which you normally do with diesel.
Yeah, that's true.
Like normally diesel really reeks, but anyway, whatever it was forming a slick on the water for sure.
So we reported that to the CRD.
Yeah.
And then we finally got to the locks, and I really wasn't up for doing locks today, but we did.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, there's only 6. We'll do them really quickly, because we did the 7 yesterday, and they'd gone really quick.
And then we get through the first one.
Which went really quick.
And then we get to the second one. And there's a guy coming up on a boat, and he, at first he asks me, like I was starting to drop the lock because I didn't see a boat. Then he comes running up with a
His
windlass.
boat was still in the previous lock.
Yeah, so when he came running up with the windlass, I was like, oh, well, I don't want to raise the lock. I'd only raised it maybe 6 inches.
Yeah.
So I went and wound it down and was like, yeah, you can open that one and come on in, no problem. And he's like, well, actually, I can't leave the first one because the pound's empty. And I can't even get the lock up all the way because we're out of water. So it's, and he's asking me if I can let some water down. So we had kind of this, well, the lucky thing was we've got the radios now. So you went down to watch them as I ran water down from above.
And then I think there was enough water to go through because there was a channel in the middle. So he started to go through, but then not even halfway through, he got a mattress wrapped around his prop. So then he had no control of the boat. So then the boat spun round and he had to spend a good, 10, 20 minutes down the weed hatch getting this blooming mattress off.
And while he was doing that, I drained the pound above us sufficiently, well, above the lock.
It wasn't drained, it had just gone down and we were starting to ground out.
Yeah, so the boat was starting to tilt because I was grounding out at the rear. So I ran up to the next lock to let more water down.
Because the top pound was like the 22-mile pound, so it just made sense to send a bit more water down.
Yeah, so I figured I'd drain 22 miles and...
well, he didn't.
And yeah, so,
So all this just takes time, and then he finally gets his prop clear and he comes into the lock, and then we couldn't get the gate shut behind him.
Yeah, it closed to the point where one of them closed all the way, then the other one closed with only maybe 6 inches to go.
Yeah,
and I couldn't, no matter how hard I pressed on it, it couldn't work. So I opened it. He went along with his barge pole and tried to see if there was something down there blocking it where the concrete footing is, and he couldn't find anything. There wasn't anything in the actual hinge.
No.
So I just thought, well, let's try closing them as far as we can.
And use the force of
opening
water.
everything up and seeing if it seals. And it actually did seal pretty good.
It was very leaky, but it closed, basically. The top was closed. It was just gappy at the bottom.
Yeah. And it made a lot of creaking noises and stuff.
Yeah.
When we were dropping and that one started to relax, it was like really creaky, like making a lot of noise.
So by this stage, we'd probably been there an hour and we'd only done one lock.
Yeah.
So then it went pretty quick after that.
Yeah, well, because the good thing was, because we'd put the water down and everything, now all of the rest of the locks, except for the very bottom one, were all already at the top because water was overflowing.
And because he'd come down.
Yeah, so it was like pretty much set for us.
But he was on quite the adventure because he just bought his boat a few weeks ago. He bought it in, I think he said Nottingham. So they spent the last few weeks travelling up. They're just off to find go to their home mooring. So this was like their maiden voyage. So I was like, honestly, it's not always like this.
Yeah, no, and then as he was leaving, he's like, don't worry, it's not going to put us off. I'm like, good.
So they were really nice. It's always so nice when you meet like nice, cheerful people.
Mm-hmm. And then from there, no more real oddities, no more random birds, no more encounters with wildlife. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good day, but probably a little bit more than I wanted to do, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm feeling the urge to keep going all the time.
It's fine. It's good. I'm enjoying it. It's just my on the paddles on yesterday's lock. Was it yesterday's or the day before's? They're the lever ones. I kept putting my shoulder underneath it to lever it up, and I've got bruises on my shoulders. And luckily, the paddles on these locks are just beautiful.
But on the good side, neither of us slept really well last night. We were both tired this morning. I'm tired.
Let's eat and then just go to bed.
Yeah, the sun's going down. We've got time for dinner. Take George over to this park that's just beside us and throw the ball. Yeah, he's about to bark at something.
Pretty much why we stopped here is because we saw we saw the little field there, so it just seems nice.
And there's an easy walkway down to it. So I'm going to take George for a ball throw.
It's called Cherry Tree, which just seems like a nice place a nice name for a place.
Yeah. Although I haven't seen the tree.
Yeah.
I'm looking everywhere. From Shorty over here, thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already. Subscribe to Minimalist Maximum Velocity if you want to get some nice little time lapses. Also, here's George's nose, very briefly in the shot. George, where are you going? That's a dachshund. Come back over here. As you good dog is. Yes, he is. Okay. And, oh yeah, click that schnoz if you want to get notifications. It's recording now. Verify that it's recording. Yes, it's recording. Good, we don't have to do 2 takes of this crap.
It's very dark. There's a really big boat coming.
Really big boat coming while my hair is doing its...
I think it needs a haircut. Do you want me to do it again?
Been in the hat the whole time today. Except for I hit a tree and some sort of...
Oh, that was ridiculous.
Little green thing ended up on me.
I joked that, like, Michael would have to go to the side to put it on a tree. And so what did we do? We spent like 5 minutes going to the side.
What else am I going to do?
Just keep it. I don't know.
Yeah, how am I going to keep it? It's crawling all over me.
Yeah.
You don't want it anywhere near you. So I was like, okay, let's stop. Let's move to the side. I will blow this little creature off my hand and it will end up in the grass where no doubt it will probably go, I've just moved 25 million miles and I have no idea where I am. I shall starve. Which is probably just as cruel as just squashing the poor thing, but Anyway.
They're good too.
That's why George is so enthusiastic about it.